Now at 4, Verdict Watch.
What we're learning about the first full day of jury deliberations in the Delphi murders trial.
And we're also watching our rain chances as it's getting a little bit closer. I'll have the timing for you and if it will impact the Monumental Marathon.
And a person killed.
The latest on the investigation after a man was found stabbed to death in a Metro Indy apartment complex.
Live from Indy, you're watching 13 News.
And we begin 13 News at 4 on this Friday afternoon, watching and waiting for a verdict in the Delphi murders case. Right now, jurors are deliberating the fate of Richard Allen. He's facing 4 different charges.
The trial has been going on for weeks, but now we wait. Richard Allen is charged in the deaths of Libby Williams and Abby German. Libby German and Abby Williams, rather, and the teens' bodies were found in February of 2017 near the Monon High Bridge in Delphi. Senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel and 13 News reporter Emily Longnecker are live outside the Carroll County Courthouse.
And they've been there since day one. What is the status of this jury right now?
We can tell you that we will not have a verdict coming down today. Emily and I have been out here waiting all day with a whole lot of other folks as well, but just about 7-8 minutes ago, the jury left the Carroll County Courthouse here behind us on the far corner, and they left the courthouse after about 7 hours of deliberations. They got here a little bit before 9. They left a little bit before 4. So 7 hours today, 2 hours yesterday, about 9 hours of deliberations so far to really weigh through a lot of evidence, a lot of testimony. This jury has heard from 64 separate witnesses. We had 387 exhibits, over 17 days of testimony. It's not shocking that here, after just essentially a full day of deliberations, that we do not have a verdict yet, but we're not allowed inside. The jury is inside the courthouse, up on the 3rd floor when they are inside in the jury room deliberating. The media, the public, all of us kept outside, so clearly we're not a part of those deliberations, Emily, but while they're inside, there's a lot going on out here.
I mean, there's a lot going on out here, Bob. I would say, about 60 to 70 people we've counted throughout the day, some media folks, some folks from the town of Delphi, some folks from all across the United States that have actually come here to watch this trial, to possibly be here when a jury hands down a decision. You know, from the very beginning, since this happened almost 8 years ago, people in this town would say today is the day. The families of Abby and Libby would say today is the day. And at that time, they meant today is the day that we're going to have an arrest in this case, a break in this case. And today, people were here hoping, is today the day that we're going to find out a decision that this jury has. And of course, we found out it is not the day. Not today. But let's take a look at some video just to show you kind of what's going on around the town of Delphi. These are signs in the businesses around the courthouse showing support for Abby and Libby and their families. And, you know, people have also made dozens of signs outside the courthouse. Some of those signs actually have been in support of Richard Allen, too. We've also seen that. Other signs have been critical of the investigation and police, some even critical of Judge Gall. The jury, again, had been in there all day, and if we can, when we come back out here live to show you, usually the jury, as Bob had said, and they came out today, they came out of that southwest corner and they head out this way towards the northwest corner, but today the vans were turned around so that they would be heading out of town a different way, so that they would not come past all of these signs and seeing all of this. You know, again, this is a crime. This crime changed this community. And this community is here to see what this decision was. I was just across the street briefly to get a drink in the Pizza King, and I saw a sign in there that has been up in there almost 8 years. It had a picture, a flyer of Abby and Libby, a picture of Bridge Guy there, and then also a sign that the Pizza King had made, and it said, Abby and Libby, justice will be served. So this town deeply invested in this situation.
And just overnight, a lot of the businesses around the courthouse square here, just again, since last night, today we come and there are signs that say Abby and Libby and support for the families around town as they are waiting for justice to be served in this case. So no Verdict today in the full day of deliberations. What should we make of that? What does that mean? We will talk about that coming up at 5. For now, we'll send it back to the studio.
Quick question for you two. Do you know where Richard Allen is being held right now? Is he in the courthouse? Is he in jail? Is he there?
So we know he is not at the courthouse, and it's interesting because there are 2 armed security officers that are with him at all times, and you might not necessarily know that they are security officers because throughout the trial we've seen them sitting right behind Richard Allen, and they are always wearing very nicely tailored suits, even though they are, and I'm not positive if they're with the Department of Correction or if they are sheriff's deputies, but these are 2 armed guards that are right there, and every defendant is presumed innocent, of course. So the idea of having armed guards, in flak jackets right next to the defendant would give the impression of guilt, and they want to make sure there is a neutral impression for the jury. So during the pre-trial hearings, they were just, decked out in their flak jackets and with their guns visible. That is not the case here. Those security guards we saw multiple times up on the stairs here at the courthouse. Richard Allen not in the courthouse today. So he has been held at the Cass County Jail. We do not know for certain whether he is staying at the Cass County Jail or, since we're awaiting a verdict, if he is being moved closer and staying here in the Carroll County Jail. But we do know that he was not here at the courthouse today.
All right, Bob and Emily, thank you so much for you're just doing a great job. Such thorough coverage there from Carroll County. We'll come back to you coming up at 5 o'clock.
Okay, as they said, we are waiting for some major developments to come out of this. Our coverage of the Delphi murders trial will continue throughout 13 News at 4.
At 4:30, our legal expert, Katie Jackson-Lindsay, will be having more in-depth analysis for us about today's deliberations. And you can watch our Delphi debrief show on WTHR+. Bob and Emily will be breaking down what's happening today in Delphi at 10 o'clock tonight, as they do every night. You can stream that show on demand on WTHR+.
All right, now we have to get to some other headlines this afternoon. An Indianapolis woman has been arrested for allegedly stabbing a man to death at an apartment on Mass Ave.
Police say it happened in September at the Barton apartments inside Forest Hills apartment. And according to court documents, the woman told police, well, she was barely poking him.
Our Chase House spoke to the man's sister and some of the people who live in the building. And Chase, what did they tell you?
While some people are telling me they can't wait to leave, others are saying they're going to stick around to see what new management will do and if they'll make the necessary changes. Something Hill's sister says he won't be around to see. Up on the 14th floor of the Barton apartment building is where police found Forest Hill in September, lying in a pool of his blood after being stabbed to death. And according to court records, police believe it was a woman who had been living with him.
From the time I got the phone call saying that my brother was deceased, I knew it was her.
Sharice Hill is Forrest's sister. She says Forrest just moved into the building 3 weeks before he died, but says he would have been better off staying in prison due to the living conditions.
To him, it probably meant everything. But to me, as being his little sister, I wouldn't have allowed him to move in there.
IMPD says officers have been called to the building 58 times over the last year for disturbances, trouble with people, welfare checks, among other things. Not only have on-duty police officers responded, but IMPD says the apartment complex hires off-duty officers who have responded to the property over 39 times during that same time frame.
I'm ready to get out of here.
Keith Galbraith has been living at the complex for 7 years. He says while there's crime, he's more worried about the sanitation problem.
You got mice, you got roaches, cockroaches, you got bed bugs.
While I couldn't get a hold of anyone by phone at the Indianapolis Housing Authority, I stopped by and spoke to a representative who says the only person allowed to talk to me is the CEO, but he was out of the office. I also reached out to the U.S. Housing and Urban Development, who took over the Indianapolis Housing Authority back in April, to see how they're going to address those safety and sanitary issues, but I never heard back. Reporting here in Indianapolis, Chase Howell, 13 News.
Well, let's talk about our forecast for this evening because it does feel a little bit like fall, even if the temperatures are a bit above the average. In some locations, we're about 10 degrees above the average. But very quickly, we're going to notice these 60s will continue to cool down. We have rain that's on the way, but it's still got a lot of travel time before it arrives. The one thing we have noticed are some of the clouds starting to filter in and thicken up as we've gotten through the afternoon. We'll see more of that, especially tomorrow, and I do expect rain to be in our forecast for the weekend. Doesn't happen for our Operation Football Friday night. We're looking at temperatures go back down through the 50s and eventually end up into the 40s. Notice here the clouds on the increase as this north wind kicks in. That may also help our temperatures to adjust, and I think we'll be right around 40. Give or take a couple of degrees either side of that. That'll be our low temperature for tomorrow. Now, looking ahead to tomorrow morning, we are expecting some clouds the early part of the day. Those will continue to thicken up. For the Monumental Marathon, we're looking at temperatures starting into the 40s. I think most of the runners will enjoy that. We'll get up into the 50s, but at the end of this forecast, even though you still see a peak of sunshine, I think we're going to have rain on the way for your Saturday. I'll time that out for you coming up.
All right, Rob, thank you. Verdict watch in the Delphi murders trial.
We hear from our legal analyst ahead at 4:30. First at 4, economy post-election.
What experts are saying about the outlook ahead for next year. Plus, wildfires out west.
The areas where people can return to see the destruction. Next.